like to introduce our next speaker. He has a very, very interesting approach to treating and dealing with macular degeneration, which I think you're going to find fascinating. He's written a book which you got a chance to purchase and still will after the meeting in the back. His name is Dr. Knobbe. He was a clinical associate professor emeritus at the University of Texas Southwestern Medical Center from 2001 to 2015 before retiring from active practice. He founded A.M.D. in 2000 and wrote virtually all the detailed content on eye conditions and procedures for that site from 1994 to 2015. He's here today to talk about his book called A.M.D. Preventable, Even Treatable with an Ancestral Diet. I think you're going to find what his remarks very exciting and interesting, and I hope you take them to heart. Dr. Knobbe.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today you're going to hear a revolutionary hypothesis for the cause of macular degeneration. And this is a hypothesis which holds that macular degeneration is not only entirely preventable, but that it may be treatable and even possibly reversible in early stages with diet, with an ancestral diet. So what I'm going to show you today is that macular degeneration was once a very rare disorder. Not that long ago, in fact. And today, as you know, it's an epidemic around the world in developed nations. And the only thing that can account for that is our diet. That's the only thing. And I'm going to show you this, and I hope I can convince you of this today, that again, A.M.D. was rare, now it's common, and what's changed is our diet. I'm going to do this in short order. So, first, I just want to have financial disclosure. I'm not paid by any food companies, products. I am not even a paid speaker, and I do not receive royalties from this book that I have. I'm here for you guys. I'm here because I believe in this with all my heart, and I want to show you this. And it's so simple. I mean, there's amazing detail that we need to get into to try to prove this to you, but the application is phenomenally simple, all right? So, let me ask you, what is the lifetime risk of developing macular degeneration in the United States today? The answer is about 1 in 3. 1 in 3 people by the age of 75 and above in this nation and in most developed nations already has A.M.D. and has had since 1992. But what you may not know is that 1 of 11 people over the age of 50 worldwide has macular degeneration. That's staggering. This is a global problem, right? It's not just here, it's everywhere. Now, well, what do you think the lifetime risk of developing macular degeneration was back in the year 1900? Anybody? 0. Exactly. About 0. Maybe 1 in many, many thousands. And here in just a few minutes, I'm going to try and prove this to you just with a little bit of data about, a little bit of the history that I uncovered over months of research. So, the question is though, I'm sorry, let me say this. How did we go from 1 in many thousands being affected to 1 in 3 in about 50 to 70 years, because that's what happened. Think about that. So, okay. So 15 million Americans were expected to be affected with A.M.D. in 1994. By 2020, it's anticipated that 196 million people will be affected with A.M.D. 2 million people blind, both eyes, according to the World Health Organization, worldwide by 2002. So I believe that number is closer to between 3 and 4 million today, some 15 years later, right? The way things are going. So, now you've seen these pictures before from Dr. Brown here just moments ago. Here's the healthy macula. Here's dry macular degeneration. I know it's small for you to see back there, and then wet macular degeneration. This is the usual progression, right? And then vision can go from like this on the left to that on the right, correct? And the question is, could this be due to diet and diet alone? And I'm going to submit to you today that I believe it is, and it is 100%. And I'm going to show you exactly why. Also, everything I'm going to tell you today, all the facts, figures, science, it's all science. I didn't come up with any of this. I just gathered all of this science and put a hypothesis to this, okay? So everything you hear is the God's honest truth. Now, we're going to talk about ancestral diets versus westernized diets. Ancestral diets, very simply, is any diet that existed anywhere on the planet before 1880. Why is that? Because before 1880, we had no man-made processed foods. We didn't have white refined flour, we didn't have hardly any sugar, we had no vegetable oils, and we had no trans fats. And you're going to hear this several times today, but this is really key to understand. So, when you went to the grocery store in 1880, what'd you come home with? Meat, fowl, fish, eggs, fruits, vegetables, grains, nuts and seeds, and butter. All right, that's what you could come home with. That's what you made your food out of. And people were brilliantly healthy, and they didn't have chronic degenerative disease, heart disease, cancer, stroke, diabetes, hypertension, obesity. They had none of this. They died of infections. That's what they died of mostly. Okay? Now, here's a westernized diet. Now, there's 600,000 food items in the United States today. Imagine that you can put on your plate. But I'm going to boil this down. This gets really simple. You know what all of these foods are primarily made out of? 63 to 70% of those foods are made up of refined white flour, added sugars, vegetable oils, and trans fats. 63 to 70%. And these foods did not exist before 1880, with the exception of sugar in really small quantities. This is the recipe for westernized disease. Heart disease, cancer, metabolic syndrome, obesity, all this stuff. And I'm going to tell you, I believe it's the same cause of macular degeneration. So pick your plate, but if you're consuming foods like this, that's called the standard American diet. SAD. Perfect acronym, right? Because it leads to all this. All right, you like that? So this statement, I don't know if you can read this in the back. This is a statement that we've seen in ophthalmology textbooks and journals for many decades. The etiology of macular degeneration is unknown. We don't know what causes it. So if we don't know what causes it, we can't prevent it, right? When we really don't know how to treat it. You can't prevent or treat something properly when you don't know the cause. This is the hypothesis that I proffered in 2013. It goes like this. The displacing foods of modern commerce are the primary and proximate cause of macular degeneration. Now, displacing foods of modern commerce, just think of that as processed man-made foods. We're going to come back to this again. Now, the corollary to this hypothesis is that any type of ancestral diet will not only prevent A.M.D., but will treat it as well. So you can pick any kind of food you want on the planet, and you can make it ancestral. Very, very simple. So, now, let's go back to the fundamentals. Here's the treatment for dry macular degeneration that ophthalmologists and optometrists collectively agree on. Synthetic vitamins, the Arid's formula vitamins, dark leafy green vegetables. We tell these people to exercise and don't smoke, right? Okay, these are the fundamentals. There's more details you could get into, but these are the biggies. Now, I agree with all of this, with the exception of the synthetic vitamins. Let me show you why. No. So the first question about synthetic vitamins is, do they prevent macular degeneration? Does anybody here believe that these vitamins prevent macular degeneration?
No.
Great. No, you all know this. Okay. So, the Cochrane collaboration, which is an independent body of scientists, looked at this in 2012. They found, yes, that these vitamins don't prevent A.M.D. in any study. In fact, there was 4 studies, 62,520 people, randomized, controlled, clinical. They followed these people. But these vitamins didn't prevent A.M.D. in any study. Okay, so you can't take them to prevent A.M.D. No, so the next question then is, but do these synthetic vitamins prevent or slow progression of existing macular degeneration? So once you have it, do they help? Well, we have a little bit of information here, right? Or you wouldn't be able to, nobody could tell you to take these. But let's look at this. There's been 13 randomized controlled clinical trials that looked at taking these synthetic vitamins and whether or not they're going to slow the progression of macular degeneration. 12 of those trials failed. Didn't prevent it at all. One trial, the age-related eye disease trial, the A.M.D. trial, had some success. All right? 1 out of 13. So, let's look at the A.M.D. trial real briefly. Now, you've heard this already this morning from Dr. Brown. 1 of 4 people had a benefit in this trial. That means 3 of 4, 75% taking these vitamins, no benefit at all. So, now, Carl O. and his colleagues in Tennessee, they looked at all this data and determined that 13% of the people taking these A.M.D. formula vitamins had a more than 135% progression of their macular degeneration. In other words, they're more than twice as bad off because they're taking the vitamins. Okay, so 1 out of 4 better, 13% twice as bad off. How much are we helping you with these vitamins? Okay, there's more to say about this. I'll come back to this. Now, so let me go back to this hypothesis that I proffered. The displacing foods of modern commerce are the primary and approximate cause of A.M.D. So where did I come up with this term, displacing foods of modern commerce? That came from this man, Weston A. Price. So for those of you who don't know him, Weston A. Price to me is the father of nutrition science. Weston Price was a highly accomplished scientist, researcher, and dentist who in the 1930s traveled the world for a decade, evaluating people on 5 continents, 14 nations, hundreds of tribes and villages, thousands upon thousands of people in attempt to determine, A, what it was about diets that kept people's teeth healthy. He was a dentist, first of all. But B, he wanted to know what was it about diets that kept people in general good physical health and what resulted in physical degeneration. So what Price found was that no matter where he went all over the world, on 5 continents, he found people that looked like this while consuming their native traditional diets. These are people that were brilliantly healthy, happy, in vibrant health, and their teeth were naturally perfectly straight, and they were 99+% cavity free. These people didn't have dentists. They didn't need dentists. They looked like this. Again, as long as they consumed their native traditional diets. Now, interestingly, these people, they were immune to all these degenerative diseases that we get, like heart disease, cancer, stroke, high blood pressure, obesity. They didn't get these diseases, okay? They also didn't get infectious disease like tuberculosis, again, as long as they consumed their native traditional diets. But as soon as they began to consume what Price called the displacing foods of modern commerce, which he defined as white flour, sugar, canned goods, sweets, and confectionery, the next thing that happened when they consumed these foods was dental decay. Again, this may be hard for you to see in the back, but these 2 ladies on the left have severe dental decay. And then this was followed, if they continued the westernized foods, our foods, they developed arthritis, cancer, loss of immunity to infections, eventually heart disease, things like this. They started developing our kinds of diseases. So, now, all three of these ladies are Australian Aboriginals. The two on the left were consuming the displacing foods of modern commerce, these westernized foods, right? The one on the far right continued her native traditional Aboriginal diet. See how she's healthy, teeth look fantastic? This is what Dr. Weston Price found on 5 continents over and over and over again, thousands upon thousands of times over a period of a decade. I mean, this was an epic work. Okay, so you can look at all these diets. There's dozens or maybe hundreds of different diets because it's from 5 continents, right? And how do you classify all these diets? They ate all kinds of things. First of all, here's some things that are common. Macronutrient ratios didn't matter. You know, all this garbage about high fat, high carb, high protein, none of that seemed to make any difference whatsoever. You know what it was about? Micronutrient ratios, vitamins and minerals in the food. In the food. Okay? So nutrient density is what's critical. All these diets were of plant and animal origin, and they all contained sacred foods. Sacred foods were foods very rich in fat-soluble vitamins that were foods like organ meats, liver, and fish eggs, for example. These are very rich in vitamins A, D, and K2, and these are vitamins that are critical to our health and are not widely distributed in the food supply. So, Price sent back thousands and thousands of these samples of food back to his labs in the United States and had them analyzed. And what he found was that these primitive people's diets contained 10 times as many fat-soluble vitamins, A, D, and K2 primarily, 4 times as many water-soluble vitamins, which is all the B vitamins and C, and 1.5 to 60 times more minerals than did the American diets of his day. Well, that was the 1930s. So it's far worse today because we have far more processed food, right? 600,000 food items you can choose from here in the US. So, now, but we believe we can replace these naturally derived vitamins from foods with pills, right? And fortified foods. We can plug in the synthetic vitamins into our foods and make them healthy. Well, does this work? So the Cochrane collaboration, again, which is independent, looked at this, 2012, 78 trials. They evaluated looking at vitamin consumption and our health. They found that those people consuming these synthetic multivitamins had a higher death rate from all causes. They're a little less healthy, they die a little sooner. This includes the ARIDS formula vitamins. How do you like that? It's a multivitamin. So, now, since Price's time, what we found is that there's a boatload of research, hundreds, thousands of studies that have connected processed foods to diseases of Western civilization. All these diseases, heart disease, stroke, diabetes, cancer, metabolic syndrome, osteoarthritis, Alzheimer's, obesity, even autoimmune diseases, all these things linked to processed man-made foods, right? So I understood this back in 2011. So I asked this question: could macular degeneration be another disease of Western civilization? Might it be a disease that follows processed food? So, to answer that, we need to look at what are risk factors for macular degeneration. Aging and genetics. This is what ophthalmologists and optometrists believe. It's all about aging and genetics. Well, we know that macular degeneration has been associated with heart disease, type 2 diabetes, metabolic syndrome, obesity, right? Notice I'm naming diseases of Western civilization. What I'm saying to you is that these conditions don't cause macular degeneration, they simply run with it because they're all caused by the same thing, a processed food-laden diet. All right, but could macular degeneration just be a disease related to genetics and aging? That's the question. Could it be? If so, then the prevalence should have been the same in 1920 as it was in 1970, right? Because our genetics haven't changed, we don't believe, for 10,000 years. So they certainly couldn't change in 50 years or 100 years. So, was macular degeneration prevalent in 1900? Let's look at this. So here's the questions. Was A.M.D. always so prevalent? In fact, when can ophthalmologists even see the macula? 2013, I had no idea. So I began investigating this. Ophthalmologists could see the macula in 1851. Von Helmholtz designed the ophthalmoscope, and this is the device we use to look into the back of the eye so you can see the retina. 1851, he published this design. And this technology spread around the world in a decade. All right? So, in fact, 1855 to 1870, ophthalmologists are creating atlases of the back of the eye. All these pictures of the retina. Guess what? None of them had an image of macular degeneration. The most common retinal condition we see today, it wasn't in these. Why? In fact, 23 years ago, before this man, London ophthalmologist Jonathan Hutchinson described macular degeneration for the first time, 1874. He describes 4 cases from his practice. Another decade goes by, 11 years in fact, and then this man, Otto Haupt, German ophthalmologist, discussed macular degeneration in a lecture. He presented no cases. Another decade goes by. Now we're at 1895. Otto Haupt does a study, looks at 50,000 ophthalmic patient medical records, determines that macular degeneration was as rare as traumatic maculopathy and myopic maculopathy. These are incredibly rare conditions. I saw about 4 or 5 of these in 24 years of practice. I would see that many macular degeneration patients every day. 1927, this man enters the picture, Sir Stuart Duke Elder. Duke Elder would become the most prominent ophthalmologist of the English language from about 1920s to 1970s. He publishes his first textbook, comprehensive textbook of ophthalmology, 1927, not a single word regarding macular degeneration. 340 pages of content, not a word. And yet 13 years later, when he published his next textbook of ophthalmology in 1940, he dedicated 13 pages to the condition of macular degeneration, 17 images, 6 of which were in full color, and he called macular degeneration a common cause of failure in central vision in old people. So I don't think he even knew what macular degeneration was in the 1920s. Now in 1940, it's a common cause of failure in vision. What's going on here? Okay, 1973, 1975, the Framingham study, Massachusetts, now we have 8.8% of those people over age 52 have A.M.D., 27.9% of those age 75 and above have the condition. Now we've got an epidemic. Millions of people affected. So a condition not worth mentioning in 1927 in a comprehensive textbook of ophthalmology, in fact all the comprehensive textbooks essentially, most of them, now is an epidemic. What do you think happened? So let's look at our diet. 4 major things happened in our diet. 4 major things. Again, refined white flour, sugars, vegetable oils, and trans fats. I'll hit this really quick, folks. Okay, white flour. Why is this important? Introduced in 1880 because roller mill technology replaced stone mill technology that year. Roller mill could shear away the bran and the germ, removing B vitamins, E vitamins, fiber, minerals, omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids. Now we have a nutrient-deficient food. All right, like sugar. It's a nutrient-deficient food. Today, wheat is 20% of the world's diet. 85.3% of that in the U.S. is refined white flour. It's a nutrient-deficient food. That's what's in most all your bread. Okay? Second, vegetable oils. You might think these are good. These don't come from vegetables. These come mostly from seeds, and the process is disgusting. So in 1880, manufacturers determined they could take cotton seeds, crush them, heat them, run them through a hydraulic press, treat that mush to a petroleum-derived hexane solvent bath, steam it, degum it, alkalinize it, bleach it, and deodorize it, all chemically. And now they say these are good for us to eat. That sound like something you do in your kitchen? These are incredibly oxidized, dangerous substances, and 3 decades of research point to a boatload of disease, heart disease among them, and macular degeneration. We've got 7 or 8 studies now pointing the finger at these for macular degeneration. I'll tell you what, put this stuff in your engine, use it for motor oil, but don't eat it. It's crazy. Okay, here's vegetable oil consumption in the US. This is our research. 2 grams a day from 1880 to 1909, rising all the way up to 80 grams a day is what we consume, us Americans, on a day, 80 grams a day That's about 2.5 ounces worth, 2.5 shots worth of vegetable oil per day. It's in your food. You don't have to spoon anything in there. It's in your food, just like sugar. All right, so, okay, third, trans fats, introduced with Crisco by Procter & Gamble, 1911. These are incredibly dangerous. I wish I had time to talk to you much longer about all these, but these were eventually removed by the FDA from GRAS status, generally regarded as safe status, in 2015. But guess what? These won't be going away because up to 4.6% of vegetable oils are also trans fats, dangerous. The partially hydrogenated vegetable oils, these things are devastating and also cause macular degeneration. Okay, fourth, sugar. So in 1822, we consumed 6 pounds of sugar per person per year in the United States. That rose to 108 pounds per person per year by 1999, a 17-fold increase in sugar consumption in that period of time. So put the 4 of these foods together. I know this is hard to see, but the yellow slice of our edible pie in the US, 63% of the American diet made up of those 4 foods: sugar, white flour, vegetable oils, trans fats. 4 nutrient-deficient processed foods, at least 3 of which have severe toxicities. Okay? This is the most important thing to realize. This is the recipe for metabolic disaster, heart disease, cancer, diabetes, metabolic syndrome, all that, and macular degeneration too. And I'm going to show you that right now very quickly. So we're going to see macular degeneration follows processed food. We've looked at this in 25 nations. I can only show you 3. Okay, so here's the United States. It'd be hard for you to see back there, but so this is sugar in the blue, vegetable oils down here in the black, and this is macular degeneration in the green, prevalence, okay? And you can see that back here in 1900, we had no macular degeneration, right? This is when we had none. 1930, somewhere in here, we had some. Okay? By the 1960s or 70s, we're at epidemic proportions. Okay? You have to consume these foods about 30 to 50 years before the A.M.D. really hits. That's the point of this. Okay, here is Japan. Now this is in our own lifetimes. So you see, here's their vegetable oils, the polyunsaturates, down here about 9 grams a day in 1961, rising up to about 40 grams a day by the early 2000s. More than 4-fold increase. Here's sugar, 50 grams a day back here in 1961. Went up to 80, 90, close to 100 grams a day over the next succeeding 4 or 5 decades. Now look what happened to their macular degeneration. It was 0.2% prevalence in the 1970s, rising to 11.4% prevalence by 2007, a 57-fold increase in the prevalence of macular degeneration. 57-fold. Look what changed. Sugar and vegetable oils. These are tracking processed foods. That's what these, it's not just about sugar and vegetable oils. These are tracking processed foods. Okay, last one. Solomon Islands, down in the South Pacific, 630,000 people. Look at their sugar. 20-ish grams a day since 1961. Look at their polyunsaturated vegetable oils, 0. Now look at their macular degeneration, 0.2%. We have 74 times more macular degeneration than they do. What's the difference? Sugar, vegetable oils, processed food. These people don't get processed foods. They're so poor, they can't even afford those. They live off the land. They eat fish, fruit, root vegetables, things like that. Okay, so wrapping up. So macular degeneration was a medical rarity from 1851 to 1930. I don't believe there's any question about it. By 1970, epidemic. Today, at least 190 million people worldwide. What changed? The displacing foods of modern commerce, that's what changed. We have evidence for proximate cause because these foods always come first, then the macular degeneration hits. Takes about 30 to 50 years of consumption. There's a dose-response relationship. You couldn't see much of that today, but the more you eat, greater your risk. And finally, if you look at our data in 25 nations, I believe this is a mathematical certainty. So, if you believe this hypothesis might have validity, I invite you to learn more. You can come to our website, it's cureamd.com, and I do have a book available. It's called Cure A.M.D. Ancestral Dietary Strategy to Prevent and Reverse Macular Degeneration. I have a few copies here, but it's primarily available from our website, and you can order it online there. It's not available through Amazon just yet. And ladies and gentlemen, I just want to tell you it's an honor and a pleasure to speak to you today. I want to thank you for your attention, and I'll be glad to take questions when we get into our forum here in a few minutes. Thank you.